Hi everybody, this is Tracy from Tracy's Art and Craft. Today we're going to be crafting. I did do this video ahead of time. I did it over the weekend and my family were watching a movie with me, so I'm doing a voiceover for it instead. And that's just because it would have been too loud at the movie. My children were also dancing and prancing about. So here I'm showing you the papers that I'm using. These papers come from the set from Shabby Dabby Doodah called Dickensian Christmas. I think I'm saying that right. A beautiful, beautiful Victorian-esque set with some more vibrant colours within the set, which is absolutely beautiful. So I've put those papers together. I also have some of my own scrapbook papers in there and things like that. Here I have pre-prepared what I want for the journal cover to be like. So I've brought over some fabrics that I've pre-cut and some card. This is slightly thicker cards, almost chipboard sort of feel to it. It's very thick. So yeah, I'm just showing you the fabrics there. It's lush fabric. It's very silk. It's got silk in it, so it's very silky. It's absolutely lovely. Ever so sorry, I'm fighting my glue again. This glue was running out at the time. I have finally got on my delivery, so future videos will be a little bit better because I was really running low and using the last little bits. But as crafters, that's something we do, isn't it? We're not going to waste the last bit of glue just because it takes a little while to get out. And I know that's not very good for videos, unfortunately. But that was where I was at the time, waiting. And, you know, I do have lots of children. So I've got 5 children and 4 living with me. So, you know, my craft does sit second to my children and what they need. So here I've made sure I've gotten all the edges and I'm just roughly getting in the centre. And you don't have to worry about bleed through. I'm using here Fabri-Tac. Beacons 3-in-1 is also exactly the same. There's no difference. So whichever you can get your hands on. And now I'm using the finger smoosh, as Pam from Paper Outpost calls it, as a finger tool. We're just smooshing it all together, smooshing it in. Because if you leave it very beady, it will bleed through. But if you smush it a little bit, it doesn't bleed through at all. And so then no one would know that you've glued that down, for instance. And I'm gluing, not sewing, because my cardstock is very thick and it would, you know, damage my sewing machine. So I'm not sewing. I'm just getting rid of any small edges there that are just going to cause a problem. And here I'm just about to trim it up, I believe. Yep, so I'll get my pinking shears. And these pinking shears are very good, but they were quite cheap. I think I got them from Hobbycraft, if I remember rightly. I have the pinking shears and the scalloped edge ones. And they're very good. They've lasted me 2 years and they haven't needed sharpening yet, so they're going really strong. And I am naughty. I do use my fabric scissors on paper and fabric, so, you know, they must be good scissors because they do take a beating. So I'm just neatening up the edges so when I fold them in, excuse me, I don't have too much of an edge because otherwise that will cause too much bulk. So, and I'm just going to go in and fold the corners in. I find folding the corners in really strengthens my journal. It strengthens the corners of that, especially when I am putting together a journal that is in pieces rather than using an old book cover. So this one, I'm using pieces of cardboard. So strengthening up those corners really does help to strengthen the whole piece altogether. And the Fabri-Tac, it grips very quickly, very, very quickly. So now I'm just going to glue the edges, just going around. And I think at this point I'm just going to speed it up for you. So here we are, and we are back. And I've just cut out all the gluing bits there because it was boring. You know what I'm doing there. And so now I'm just pulling in some papers, and these ones I printed too many off, so they haven't got no backing to them or anything, and I thought they'd be perfect for inside. And I've chosen this red one so we keep this red theme going. And I'm just going to cut the size that I need. So I'm going to cut the edge off, and you're going to see that I'm going to pretty much eyeball the size by folding the papers. I'm not one for measuring very much. So here I am just cutting off the edges. My printer doesn't print borderless. It has this small border, and I don't mind that because most of the time I have to cut a little bit off for the size of my journals anyway, and it stops me losing any of the picture. So I actually prefer a border. I know a lot of people don't. They prefer borderless because they prefer full A4 size, but I do tend to trim the edges of my pages anyway, so it's not a problem for me. And here you can see I'm using my craft knife again, or X-Acto knife, or whichever you choose to use. I'm just here using a basic blade that can be found on I buy these ones from the pound shop. You get a set of 6 for £1, and they last me ages because you just snap them every time they get weak. So here you can see I'm just lining it up, giving it a fold where I want it. You can't see the underneath, unfortunately. I've come off screen. I do change this partway through the video, and you'll see that soon. You'll see the mess of my wonderful craft room, or craft area, should I say. And here I'm just going to tear it because why not? Let's just tear it. It's easy, and with the metal rule you get a very, very straight line anyway, very crisp line. It's fine. I'm ever so sorry about my croaky voice. I'm getting a little bit of a cold thanks to my wonderful son, who brought one home from school for me. We have tested, it's not COVID, thank God. We don't need that in our lives right now. No, it is just colds that we're getting, and it's a very horrible cold, unfortunately. Here I am fighting with my glue again. So it's just a case of waiting until it gets down to the bottom of the bottle. But yeah, like I say, hopefully in the future videos you're not going to see so much of that. But who knows, you know, this happens to us. This does happen. We get lower supplies and we have to use what we have. And that's just the thing, you know. We don't all have a lot of money. You just have to use what you got, don't you? So, and I know right now with Christmas coming up, I don't have hardly any money. So, and the most expensive part of all this for me is the glues. I do go through so much money using glue because I use a lot of it. So here I'm getting right to the edges, very, very careful to make sure I've got plenty of glue all the way around the edges, because the edges are the most important part of this. You need them to grip very, very well. But the centre, not so. You do need a little bit of extra glue compared to maybe your cover. And that is just because you don't want this to get any air bubbles or lift at all. So I do use a little bit of extra glue when it comes to covering the inside. So here I'm just lining up the paper, getting it exactly where I want it, making sure it's square to the rest of it. You do have a little while with Fabri-Tac to be able to move around, so that's not so bad. I'm just smoothing it down, making sure there's no air bubbles, making sure that it is tacking down just right. And now we are on to the next one. So it's literally that easy. It's that simple. No measuring needed. We can just give everything a little bit of a fold and a tear, and it is that easy. So while I'm doing this, I have been thinking about what I'm going to do with this channel, where I'm going to take it. The reason I did this channel, I really wanted a safe place for crafters with mental health problems to come, to be able to talk, to be able to communicate, and you know, just be amongst each other without what can happen on some craft areas. Especially I've seen sometimes on the likes of Facebook and things like that, where sometimes it can get a little bit mean. You know, we can get a little bit passionate about our opinions sometimes, and we sometimes forget that our opinions are individual, or that our artistic tastes are individual. So yeah, it can get very mean sometimes, and sometimes I know for myself, who suffer from a mental health problem, and I've also all my life suffered very deeply from loneliness, I feel pushed out of those areas because I'm a bit intimidated, a little bit overwhelmed by them. So I really wanted this to be a place where people suffering loneliness or mental health problems, or even just want somewhere peaceful to come, could be a place to come. So I've been thinking about maybe even on this channel doing a sort of a calming collage day every week, where we can just sit together, chat a little bit, and just do some simple collage. Something that doesn't take a lot of thought, but can be really relaxing, just tearing and gluing papers. So I've been thinking about that. If you guys have any ideas, please do leave them in the comment section below. I know through a last mental health problem that I had, it was a very dark time for me, and just having other YouTubers that I would sit and watch while crafting made me feel like my craft room wasn't so empty. I wasn't sitting here all alone, and I wasn't alone in my enjoyment. There was other people with me. So I kind of want that feel about this channel, that we're all together here and we're a family and we're enjoying time together, and that, you know, you're not alone. You know, we're together. So if you guys have any ideas of what you'd love, obviously, you know, your ideas are going to be valuable because I can't think for others. So I want this channel to be for all of you and for everybody else that are going to come along the way. So through the time, if you have any ideas, I'm ever so sorry about my voice, I'm sorry. Through the time, if you have any ideas, do put them down in the description box. I will always check. I will always be commenting back and checking and, you know, talking to you guys, because the connection that we have as people is very important, and loneliness at the moment is just rife, and it's something that we need to tackle because it can leave us in a terrible place. So here you can see, I can see it, it's bugging me. The spine is longer. So that was my wonderful measuring. I don't know what I was doing there. Luckily with Fabri-Tac you do have some time. So here I just pull it up and re-trim it to size. This is a real how not to craft. This is a real how not to craft. This is where it really starts to go to pot. I don't know why. I've probably paid too much attention to the movie than I am to what I'm doing. That's a real huge possibility. Yeah, so I'm just trimming it up. But I end up not very happy with the spine of this journal. And on another video, I will be correcting that and showing you how you can correct something you're not happy with. But you'll see that as we come along. It's something that's been playing on my mind as well ever since I made this thing. and I did debate putting this video up. I was going to not bother, but I don't know. I felt like I should show when I make mistakes, because we're not perfect, are we? And there are ways to fix those mistakes that you can continue on with your work. I wasn't going to continue on with this journal, honestly. I was just going to scrap the whole thing and start a new project and not even put the videos up. But I thought this could, if someone else has got a similar problem, this could be something that might even help someone decide how they're going to fix their problem. As you can see, I've been using my glue gun on this point. I'd had enough of the fabric tack. The fabric tack was doing my head in. And luckily this glue gun, when this problem arises, you'll see in a little while, this glue gun really did kind of save the day, because the glue in it is so rubbery that it held everything together just nicely. So yeah, I'm pushing it down, making sure it's secure. And now I've got another piece just for the centre. And I'm just going to eyeball the size of that. And this is a Hessian type fabric, so it bends, so you can fold it and measure. So that's what I'm doing there. And again, I'm coming in with a hot glue gun, making sure I've got plenty, but I'm only doing halfway. And that just allows me to line up the first part. From there, I can put glue on for the rest of it, but it just means the first part is aligned and straight. And I get it down before the glue dries, because it was quite cool in my house. So I had potential for the hot glue to dry very quickly, because it dries as it cools. I'm not getting any seeping through or anything like that, so there's no need for me to be neat or anything. And I really did love this fabric. I thought it went so well. Even though it's not really Christmassy, it's just got this, the colours are just perfect. I've gotten a little bit of glue on the paper, and the hot glue rolls off. I did tear the paper just a little bit, but I do plan to put pockets and things on, so that wasn't really an issue, and I just left that. Because I still have a lot of work to do within the journal to get it to where I like it. So little mistakes like that are not to be worried about. If you do happen to tear a little bit, just move on from it. There's no need to stress about that at the time. You can come back to that another day. Just a little pocket, cover that. My hot glue has stuck my book to the side. I'm just making sure I don't have any glue on my actual mat, because that would have been catastrophe. And here the glue does come off the fabric with a little bit of work. So I'm just working at that glue. Although that would have been covered anyway, I didn't want the large thickness that was there, so I just worked with getting that off. And here I am with the ribbon that I chose earlier. And I think it's just so Christmassy. I put the two together, the two fabrics, the red with the gold flowers and the gold ribbon. And it just felt so Christmassy. I knew it would bring this book to life. So again, I'm just running a bead of hot glue just down the edge. Nice and simple. It doesn't bleed through, and it does stick instantly for videos, and that's what I needed at the time. And hey, Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah uses the hot glue gun all the time, and I'm using her set, so I'm honouring Tina's work, I suppose. Normally I would have probably used Fabri-Tac, but you know, the glue gun does a great job as well. And in this case, it does save the journal at the end, so you'll see. We're putting on the second piece of ribbon, so we've got front and back glued down. And now I'm just going to glue them into the inside. I don't leave a gap. I do bring the pieces of ribbon right all the way up to the top, and that's because these pieces will show through. So I don't really want to leave a gap at all. I do want it to wrap fully. And then we just bring up the next piece, and that will be hot glued as well into place. And this is where we were cut off. So now you can see the camera angle's a little bit bigger, so I don't keep coming off the screen, but it does mean you can see me a lot more, I'm afraid. It also means you can see my husband's tattooed arm right in the top left corner there, so I am so sorry, but he's sitting watching the movie with me today. So I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, and again, I'm not going to fight that bottle. I was, just enjoying a relaxing time. Now this piece, you can see I'm being very delicate with it, and I'm holding it funny, and you'll see that I act as if it's wet. It is wet, very, very slightly damp. I have on there a coating of a decoupage crackle top coat on, and although it gave a beautiful Victorian-esque look to the piece, it was very slightly damp when I was using it. As you can see here, I've got it all over my hands now. It didn't cause a problem, me using it while it was damp. It still crackled lovely, and turned out to be a beautiful piece. It's just that it had a few little damp patches that I didn't want to destroy. And here I'm pulling in a label. These labels are, again, Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah's label sets. And she kindly gifted these and the Christmas papers to me, which is so kind of her. She's such a sweet woman. And these labels, they come on a background that's coloured, so you can choose to cut the label out directly to the size and the shape of the label, or even you could use the background to make it a new shape label. Maybe you want the label to be squared. The backgrounds all come in complementary colours to the labels themselves, so it's really, really handy. And here you can see my craft room is just like any other crafter's room. When I'm on a project, it gets a bit messy. I have papers down beside me on the floor. My trolley's gotten a little disorganised. And I do tidy up after every crafting session. I also tidy up and reorganise after every project. Because I get ready for the next project, and I put away things that I'm not going to use and pull out things that I am. So, but every crafter, everyone, you're doing your bit and it will get a little bit messy. I actually get my messiest when I'm doing my art. I pull out stuff and everything gets covered. There are bits and pieces all over the place. So when I'm doing my art, that's just how I'm most creative. And here I'm using one of the bows from the Christmas set. All these will be linked in the description box, so don't worry, I'll have not only Tina's store linked in the description box, but I'll also have the actual labels and the Christmas set linked down there for you, so that you can go directly to them if you wish to. And this has turned out to be a lovely book cover, but here I'm trying to fold it. It's not folding right, and I'm not happy with how it's folding. And that's because of the hot glue has stiffened it. It actually turns out to be a blessing in disguise in a little while. But yeah, it's not to worry about if it's not folding right, because if you just give it time to settle while it's sort of closed, it will, you know, stick to its form eventually. It's just not wanting to because it's been flat for a while. And this is another piece from the set that I've fussy cut out. You get some beautiful fussy cuts, absolutely loads. And it's a massive set. You get 16, I think, pages for the background pages and actual papers. And then I think you get something like another 16 or 14 fussy cut pages. So you get cards, pockets, tags, and fussy cut images, and it's a massive set, very much worth its money. And she only pays, you know, she only charges £4 something if you're in UK money, and that's just a bargain because you can print this off as many times as you want. You'll have this year in, year out, this set. Yeah, and it's just so cheap. I'm gluing on a little bow here, and I'm getting glue all over myself. I've just decided to pull in my words. Now these words I make myself. I just make up a Word document, write down some words, choose the font that I want, choose the size, and then print it off. Just simple. And that's how I do most of my words, although I do like to use words that I get in sets too. But these ones are just my little words, and here I use the word journal. I've just inked it up while we're using vintage photo here for the ink. I forgot to mention that. It's just distress ink, this one, not the oxides. I do prefer the oxides, but I only have vintage photo in the ink. I don't have a massive collection of them. And again, I'm using my hot glue. That was nice and quick. It also gives this layered effect. You know, like when card making, you use those little foam pads. So here I'm just looking at it, deciding about the spine, giving it another squish, just to help it. And here I pull in my crocodile. I decided to get a big bite instead of a normal crocodile because then I can do this type of binding here that I'm doing. I've had this crocodile for 2 years, and here you're going to see it's going to go through chipboard, 2 layers of fabric, thick fabric, and hot glue, and it just goes through it like it's butter. So I've had this for a very long time and it's still going. So it's definitely worth the investment. I paid £44, I think, 2 years ago. I think it's still about the same price. And that is a very big investment for me. I don't usually pay on these type of tools that much money. But I felt it would be worth it to try. And it definitely was. It definitely was. I don't regret it at all. But I did take a lot of time, convincing myself whether I should or not. And if it works for you, it works for you. There's no reason why you can't go out and splash a bit of money on yourself. I've just gone down to the smaller hole for the centre ones. I always do the big hole for the top and bottom and the smaller hole for the centre. And now you're going to see where the crocodile really is working. 2 layers of chipboard, 4 layers of fabric and glue, and it just goes straight through all of them to give me a little hole for some little brads to put ribbon so I could tie the journal closed. Sorry, I just had to faff my way through that. I'm going to get up and get right in your way, and I do apologise for leaning over so much. So here I've got the Tim Holtz eyelets. They are the big eyelets. And I just choose out some coppery looking ones. I would have chosen the gold ones, but I only had one gold one left. I don't know how I ended up with just one. I'm sure I must have just used one on a project somewhere. So yeah, I've just put it to the further setting for squashing the eyelets in, and I just give it a squish and it's in perfectly. That simple, that easy. And these eyelets give a lot of strength, so if the ribbons to tie are constantly pulled, constantly, the eyelets really do strengthen up the piece so that it doesn't tear. So I highly recommend using some sort of eyelets, but you can get much cheaper versions of eyelet setters. You don't have to pay out anything that's a lot. I paid that out because my hands can get very sore after a while and things, so for me it was worth the money, but not for everybody. Here I'm just choosing out some gold eyelets as well. These are going to be for the back, for the spine. I have a little tin with mixed eyelets in. I just put them all together and I choose out what I want. So I hope you guys don't mind that I'm having to do a voiceover. I just thought I'd bring you along while I was crafting, so you could see me start this journal. But I couldn't have the sound on, not only for copyright reasons because of the video that we were watching, movie that we were watching, but also my children are chatting away and things and I have to protect their privacy. So lots of reasons, and it was very noisy, very, very noisy. So here we are. This is where I'm going to show you how to do the binding. Here we use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. It's one of my favourites to use. I have used many others, but this is always my go-to. It's my favourite. It's quick, it's easy, and it's strong, most importantly. So here I'm just looking at folding it, seeing how it folds, seeing what they look like, whether they're straight. This little bag is where I used to keep my threads. I have moved them since, so I forgot, and I just pulled the bag in. So here we go, my threads are now in a jar. I've decided on this darker gold thread. Sorry again for my croaky voice. And I've got my big needle. It's a really large eye needle. And so here I'm just lining up the papers to the holes that I've set. I'm taking a pencil and I'm just going to mark the center of each of those holes just along the edge of the paper. And that gives me a guide of where I would like to put the holes for sewing it in. And this guide proves very useful because it helps you keep the papers very straight. So there we go, they are all lined up. And next I'll be punching the holes. Again, I'm going to bring in my crocodile. It's the only hole puncher I use. And I'm putting it onto the smaller size, which is the middle setting. And now when I punch holes like this, I'm looking through the side and I'm lining it up to the little mark that I've made, making sure that it is in the center. I always punch from the outside in. It makes sure that all the papers stay together, and these papers are clamped with paper clips to keep them all together. There's little silver paper clips on there. I'm not sure if you can see them though. I don't think you can. So again, looking through the side and just punching, punch. And that's where I was showing you that I was looking through the side to see it. Because I just remembered I was making a video. And here you're getting to see how I actually craft, because a lot of the time I had forgotten I was making a video altogether, hence why I've had to give you this bigger view because I kept coming off screen. And that's why the video cut out as well. I completely forgot I was filming. So you're getting to see exactly what it is I do. I'm quite spontaneous as a crafter, so when I choose something I tend to just roll with it. It is the thing that I aimed for. I don't sort of hum and ha about whether I actually want that. That's just the style of artist and crafter that I am. Some people, they will spend a lot of time deciding, is this the right one? Is this correct? Do I want slightly different shade and things like that? Whereas I tend to run with my emotions and I'm a lot more spontaneous with it. So if I feel it in the moment, that's what it's going to be. So here I'm showing you the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. We go through the middle hole. You can go the other way if you want to. It'll put the little threads on the other side. So we're going through the top hole, down to the bottom hole, and then back up through the middle hole, which takes a little bit of fiddling, but we get there in the end. You need to make sure you have your threads either side of this middle one before you pull it tight. So make sure you've got the little bridge through the middle and your threads are going either side. While pulling it tight, I'm pulling it tight while also doing the knot. And I'm just checking to make sure it doesn't move. Always double check to make sure it doesn't move. Yep, if you do your threads knotted one way and then knotted the other, so one way doesn't feel right, one way does feel right, it will give a bit more security to the knot. I always knot 3 times and then put a bow. I don't always put a bow, but this time I decided to make it into a little bow, keep the threads. They looked quite pretty in a bow. But I always knot a minimum of 3 times. And it stops the threads moving. And here I'm just training the papers to go the way that I need them to, so I will fold them one way and then fold them the other and give them a squish with the bone folder. And again, I'm making sure they don't move, that they're not loose in place, because if they're loose, it's no good. And you're going to get an example of that in just a second, which is a good way to show you that if they're loose, it's no good. You have to go again. If you leave them, they're just going to get looser as time goes on and they're not going to sit right. So you go through the middle, through the top, find that hole, there we are, through the bottom. Again, I've got to get my head in the way, there's no helping me, I've forgotten I'm filming again. And then through the middle. Making sure you don't split through the thread as well. I do believe I split through the thread here, I'm not sure. I tried to pull it tight. Yep, here I am, I have split through the thread. So I'm just pulling out that thread, trying to undo it, trying to get it out from being split. I pull the needle in to help with this, because if it's split through the other thread, you just can't pull it tight. Yep, I'm still faffing with it. I'm surprised I didn't give up. There we go, we are free. So here I pull it tight. I have a look, it's still a bit loose. I pull it tight again. I don't check. And this is where I go drastically wrong. I should have checked to make sure that that second pull tight actually worked. And it didn't. And it was probably because I was still partway through the thread or something like that was happening. In a second, I will check again. So here I check and look how loose that is. That is just disastrous. There's no helping that. Undo the bow, I decide whether I want to undo the knot and I think no. So I just get my scissors in, give it a snip and pull it through. That's simple. We're just going to pull the thread in again and just make another one. No harm done. It hasn't been left. It hasn't been, nothing's damaged. We're just going to go again. And this is a good way to show you that this happens to all of us, everybody. We sometimes forget to check and we have loose pages. So here I go again. I'm going to go through the middle. This is why it really helps to clamp your pages with paper clips, because you do sometimes have to do a lot of faffing, and if the pages are very sturdy and not moving around, it really helps. So I'm going to go through the top, going through the bottom, back up through the middle, making sure this time I don't split the threads. So here I'm being very careful, but there we go, we're back up and through. Just making sure the threads are either side of the bridge, pulling them through. And now I'm going to pull tight, very, very tight, because I don't want any more movement. So I've lost the tension there, so I've just undone it and gone again, just to make sure, because I really don't want to have to do this again. I've checked this time after the first knot. So I'm just going to go in with the other three. Give it a little bow. Sorry, that is my phone making noise there. I'll just take the paper clips off now. Make sure it's not moving, definitely not. We're not going down that mistake again. And I'm just shaping the papers, making sure they all squish down nicely, move around just the way a person would want to use the book. And here I'm making sure the book folds a little bit. So here I pull in my Distress Paint stain. It is a bronze one. I actually ended up with a catastrophe later that day because I was having trouble getting the paint to come through and it just exploded on me. So I no longer own that paint. That is just, that was so messy. It covered my desk, it covered me. I'm lucky it didn't happen on this video, I really am. But yes, that happened later in the night when I was trying to clean it. Because here you can see I can't get any to come through. So yeah, I was trying to clean it and it exploded. I did eventually get a little bit come through, and I just wanted to get a little bit on the corners there. It gives this little mixed media kind of feel to it, this roughness, this, I don't know, my artistic edge, I guess, to it. So I'm just getting all four corners of each of the pages there, just giving a little bit of bronzy gold colour. I'm having to push quite hard because it does need cleaning, so I'm just going to get the holes where the little brad eyelets are. Sorry, the little eyelets. Here I'm just checking the cracking and see how it's cracking and getting along. I'm going to use a little bit of stickles. These are the Dovecraft ones. I got mine from the range, and these are just gold, just plain gold colour. And I just put a little bit in the corners, adding a few accents here and there. It's Christmas and it's a perfect time for anything sparkly, so I was just really going to town on the glitter. And I like using a glitter glue because I hate glitter getting everywhere, and it does. It gets absolutely everywhere in my house. The slightest bit of glitter and I'll be finding it for years to come. Whereas the glitter glue, it doesn't get anywhere, it's fine. So I'm just putting a few dots of glitter glue here and there. There we go, all done. So that's all.